Dreams are fragile things, built over years, shattered in seconds. Sometimes they fall not because of weakness, but because of forces that operate in silence. A signature on the wrong paper, a false whisper in the right ear, and everything you've bled for is gone. But a man's strength isn't measured by the blow that knocks him down. It's in the moment he decides to get up, even when everything around him says to stay down. Marcus Washington knew that kind of silence. He lived inside it. Rain pounded on the cracked window of a small apartment in West Baltimore, filling the air with a dull rhythm, like a tired drumbeat echoing through a war zone. The yellowish light of a single lamp flickered over peeling paint and water stains. On the worn couch, 10-year-old Zoe slept wrapped in a faded blanket, her breathing soft, steady, innocent. She clutched a plush lion with one missing eye, her mother's last gift. Nearby, Marcus sat hunched in a folding chair, elbows on his knees, a chipped mug of cold coffee in one hand and an old photograph in the other. It was Isabella in the picture, her radiant smile, eyes that seemed to shine through time. Her laughter still echoed in his mind, sometimes so vividly he'd turned to see if she was standing there. The apartment smelled like baby soap, damp wood, and the faint metallic scent of fatigue. A man's exhaustion carries its own weight, and Marcus wore it like a second skin. His hands were calloused from warehouse labor. His shoulders, once sculpted by years of combat in the ring, now slumped under invisible burdens. There was a time, 5 years ago, when they all called him Thunder Washington. He wasn't just a local fighter. He was Baltimore's promise. He moved like a storm, fists like cannons, footwork like wind, presence like fire. He still remembered the taste of adrenaline, the sting of sweat in his eyes, the roar of the crowd echoing like a symphony of belief. He fought for his family, for Zoe, for Isabella, for the dream. But then came the offers. Quiet ones, a few words behind the scenes. Take a fall in the third. There's money in it. Whispers of easy cash, of shortcuts. Marcus always said no. He believed in the merit of the fight, in the truth of it. But not everyone loved the light he carried. One morning, his face was all over the news. Alleged involvement in a betting scheme, fabricated evidence, anonymous witnesses, no trial, no appeal, just a collapse. Overnight, sponsors vanished, fights were canceled, and silence replaced the cheers. Marcus was erased. Worse than that, months later, the pandemic took Isabella. One week she had a mild fever. The next, he was holding her hand in a hospital corridor, whispering prayers that never reached any God. She died alone. They wouldn't let Zoe say goodbye. Since then, life had been survival. Stacking crates in a damp warehouse by day, raising Zoe by night, holding grief in one hand and guilt in the other. He tried not to cry where Zoe could hear him. Sometimes he failed. He didn't speak of the past. The gloves, the glory, the thunder, they were buried under cardboard boxes and bills. But fate has a strange sense of timing. That afternoon, as Marcus struggled with a pallet of water jugs, he heard a voice he hadn't heard in years. Rough, familiar, full of soul. Still got that left hook? Or did the warehouse knock it out of you? Marcus turned. Samuel Old Sam Johnson stood there, leaning on a thick wooden cane, dressed in an oversized windbreaker, and smelling faintly of sweat, coffee, and wintergreen liniment. His eyes, still sharp, still heavy with history, locked onto Marcus like he was scanning for something buried. Sam had been his trainer since he was 16. A quiet man, medium height, gray beard trimmed close. His hands looked like tree bark, scarred, strong, aged. One knee was ruined in a sparring accident decades ago, but the fire in him had never gone out. "I never believed that mess they said about you," Sam muttered. "Not for a damn second." Marcus chuckled bitterly. Didn't stop the world from moving on. Sam stepped closer. "I was the best I ever trained, Marcus. You still might be, but life didn't beat you. You stepped out of the ring. Maybe it's time you stepped back in." Marcus exhaled slowly, wiping his forehead with a stained towel. "I'm old, Sam. Out of shape. My time's gone." Age is numbers. Heart's eternal. I seen dead eyes in young men and fire in old ones. You ain't done. You just hurtin'. And maybe it's time to use that hurt for something. That night, Marcus lay beside Zoe in silence. The rain had returned, tapping the window like a metronome. She stirred in her sleep, turned toward him, then blinked her big brown eyes, so much like Isabella's, and whispered, "Daddy, do you miss being thunder?" He froze. She continued, eyes half closed. "I think you're still the strongest boxer in the world." Those words hit him harder than any punch he'd ever taken. He didn't sleep that night. He stood at the window, looking down at the streetlight flickering over the wet sidewalk. He saw himself, young, fierce, unbroken. Then he saw Zoe, sitting alone at graduation. He saw Isabella's necklace resting in a drawer. He saw a man who had survived, but not yet fought back. By morning, he had an answer. He called Sam. "I'll train, but I'm not doing it for the title. I'm doing it for her, for the truth." Sam replied, "That's all I needed to hear." And just like that, the thunder began to rumble again. The first breath inside Sam's gym felt like inhaling the past. The place hadn't changed, still tucked between a boarded-up barbershop and a liquor store on the edge of West Baltimore. The creaking of the iron gate, the gritty smell of old sweat and canvas, the stale echo of gloves hitting bags, it was all still there. Dust floated through golden rays of sunlight leaking in from broken window panes, and time seemed suspended in the air, like the gym had been waiting for Marcus to return. But Marcus wasn't the same. The heavy bag, once an obedient partner to his rhythm, now swung mockingly under his weak punches. Every joint screamed in protest. Every muscle resisted movement. He could feel the weight of 5 lost years lodged in his bones. His heart beat with uncertainty, not adrenaline. The mirror across the room reflected not the proud fighter he once was, but a man dragging regret like a shadow. Sam stood behind him, leaning on his cane. He said nothing, just watched, because he knew this wasn't about punches or footwork yet. It was about reclaiming presence. Training began before the sun. Marcus ran through the cracked sidewalks of a waking city. Cold air clawed at his lungs, his knees aching from impact with the pavement. He passed graffiti-covered walls and empty bus stops. Trash rustled in the gutters like leaves. The city hadn't changed, but Marcus had to. Back at the gym, Sam pushed him. Shadowboxing became a battle against ghosts. He fought memories, regrets, the version of himself that had given up. He jumped rope until his calves trembled, pushed through crunches until sweat blurred his sight. The mitt work with Sam felt like dialogue, glove against glove, memory against rust, rhythm against resistance. At night, he'd limp home. Zoe would be waiting, a small bowl of cereal in her lap, eyes glued to a cartoon. She never complained when he arrived late or sore. She just looked up and smiled. One night, she handed him a drawing. Him in the ring, wearing blue gloves, lightning bolts on his trunks. Above it, in shaky handwriting, "Thunder is back." It made him cry, quietly in the kitchen while washing dishes. The first fight came too soon, a tiny event in the basement of a boxing club. The locker room was dark and cold, with chipped tiles and buzzing fluorescent lights. His opponent was younger, faster, and cocky. Marcus stepped into the ring and felt the canvas beneath his feet like old skin. Round one was rough. His timing was off. His fists were half a second too slow. But then, Zoe's voice, in his head. "You're still the strongest." He adjusted. He remembered how to breathe. He started listening to the fight. He won. Barely. By decision. No cheers, no trophies, but it was a beginning. Sam grinned. "You took your first step." More fights followed. In a packed high school gym, he fought a brawler who wanted to turn the ring into a street. Marcus had to adapt, roll under hooks, jab his way out of the corner. He used angles, patience, and experience. He won again. The crowd was small but louder this time. Zoe jumped into his arms afterwards, her laughter echoing louder than the bell. Each week, his body hardened. Muscles woke up. The fighter within began to roar. Then came the state tournament. His opponent in the semis was 22 and undefeated. Fast feet, nasty jab, all mouth. Before the fight, the kid smirked. Didn't know they let old guys in. Marcus just smiled. The bell rang, and it was war. Sweat flew. Gloves collided. Marcus took a left hook to the ribs that nearly buckled him. But he danced, waited. In round 3, the kid dropped his guard, just for a breath, and Marcus struck with a clean, perfect right cross. The sound was sickening. The crowd gasped. The kid crumpled. Marcus didn't raise his arms. He just walked to the neutral corner, calm, breathing deeply. Because it wasn't about domination, it was about presence, control, purpose. But the past wasn't done with him. At the finals, Sam spotted a familiar figure in the crowd, Vincent "Viper" Castellano. Same slick hair, same dark suit, arms crossed, eyes sharp like a blade. Viper didn't speak, just smirked. Later outside, Marcus confronted him. The two stood in the orange light of a flickering street lamp. "You came to see if I'd fall again?" Marcus asked. Viper shrugged. "You always had talent, Marcus, but talent doesn't pay bills. You could have been rich." "I'm already rich. I have my name. You sold yours." Castellano laughed coldly. "We'll see if your name buys you anything in the pros. You know how this game works." Before Marcus could respond, Sam stepped between them. You lost the moment he stood back up. "Now get the hell out of here." Viper walked off, but his presence lingered like poison in the air. Marcus kept training harder. In one brutal match, part of a regional doubleheader, he fought twice in 24 hours. The first opponent pushed him to his limits. Body shots, clinches, dirty tactics. Marcus's left eye was swollen, ribs bruised. That night, Zoe snuck into the room with a cold pack and sat beside him. "You don't have to win tomorrow," she said. "You already won." He didn't sleep, but he healed just enough. The next day, he faced a younger version of himself. Hungry, powerful, angry. Round after round, the fight escalated into pure will. Sweat soaked the canvas, breath came in gasps. In round 5, Marcus dropped his hands just for a moment and ate a jab. Blood poured from his nose, but he smiled, because pain meant he was still alive. He rallied, slipped inside, landed a gut punch that folded his opponent. TKO.
Zoe screamed his name in the stands. Sam raised a fist. The audience, once doubtful, now chanted, "Thunder! Thunder!" After the fight, reporters started circling. "Aren't you too old for this?" one asked. Marcus smiled. "You don't age when you're fighting for something real." But even victory couldn't silence the doubt in his soul. Late at night, he stared at old photos, at Isabella's scarf still folded in a drawer. He visited her grave once quietly and left Zoe's drawing beside the headstone. His heart ached, but it was full. The National Amateur Championship loomed, the final stop before going pro. It was more than a fight. It was the reckoning. He trained like a man chasing absolution. Sam tweaked every flaw. Marcus woke at 4 a.m., ran until his lungs burned, sparred until his arms gave out. Zoe packed his gym bag each day, adding little notes. "Keep punching, Daddy." The night before the championship, Marcus stood by Zoe's bed. "I'm scared," he admitted. Zoe touched his face gently. "Then fight with that. Fight with everything." He nodded, held her, thought of Isabella, then closed his eyes and felt thunder rumble in his chest.